Acknowledgement. Director Herman.
We acknowledge the original inhabitants of this area, the Snohomish people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. In Everett Public Schools, we strive to create equitable outcomes and build a culture of inclusive belonging for all students, teachers, staff, and community.
Thank you. And we do have somebody who's doing his best at filling in, and we really appreciate the hard work. So I apologize for the technical difficulties. And please be patient with us tonight. So if we can move on now to the flag salute, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And if you are wearing a hat and not in uniform, please remove it.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the secretary now call the roll?
President Mitchell.
Present.
Vice President Herman.
Present.
Director Adkins.
Present.
Director Mason.
Present.
Director Revelinsky.
Present.
Student Representative Gilbertson.
Present.
Student Representative Kink.
Present.
Thank you. We'll move on to section 5.0, which is adoption of the agenda. Dr. Saltzman, were there any changes to the agenda after it was published?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. There have been two changes to the agenda since publishing. Item 7.01, Superintendent's Report, and item 11.02, Approval of the Personnel Report. The reports were updated.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the meeting agenda being adopted by general consent? Seeing none, the agenda is adopted by general consent. We'll now move on to the best part of this meeting, always, is recognitions. Ms. Reeves, I believe you're doing our April Core Value Champions.
Thank you. So tonight we have 3 schools recognizing their April core values, which is for learning. And first we're going to start with Rich Midoff from Monroe Elementary, and then we will do Gateway Middle School with Matt Bennett, and then we'll do Forest View. And parents, we're going to have everyone stay up front so you can take pictures at the end. And so we will start right off with Rich.
Good evening, thank you. And this is Bethel's teacher, Miss Albers. We're super excited to honor Bethel today. Bethel always participates in class, sharing her thinking and asking questions. She's a model student to others, offering to help them if they need it. She volunteers her time to help with tasks around the room during her recess. She asks for feedback on her work and behavior often, which is a true sign of a learner. Additionally, she was at her robotics club before here, so she's constantly doing things above and beyond at all times. And Bethel, we can't say enough great things about you, and we're super proud of you for being our core value champion. So thank you.
Couldn't have been a better person.
Yeah.
She gets to stay up here.
If all 3 of you can stand up right over here.
Yeah, stay.
All right, good evening. My name is Matt Bennett. I'm principal of Gateway Middle School, and I'm very proud to recognize Camilla Santana tonight. Camilla has grown so much in her science learning this year. English is not her first language, and yet she challenges herself to be thoughtful in her responses and utilize her growing language skills. She's a great example to her peers as she tries to share her ideas in class, written by Miss Werder, her science teacher. And I just discovered that Camilla's older brother is a Jackson High School graduate and now at Washington State. But if you talk to her, you would not know that this was her first year in the United States. Her language acquisition has been exceptional, and she's just a wonderful student to have. So congratulations. Felicidades.
Well, my little person isn't here today.
Ava Del Castillo, but I can tell you that you have missed a treat because she is the cutest thing walking. So I'm sorry that you missed her. She's a leader in her kindergarten class. She always makes the right choice. She tries her best with her work, and she helps others having integrity and compassion. She's reliable, hardworking student, and she's the best friend. We're so lucky to have her at Forest View. I went and saw her today in her class. She was writing a letter to her older sister, wishing her a happy birthday, and I wish that she was here to accept this award. So thank you.
Okay, do you guys want to like center in the middle, and then we'll have the board stand up and get behind you? Oh. Okay, Dr. Salzman, I can't, there we go. All right, you ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, parents, do you want to come up and take pictures? You can come up here, get a good shot. All right, thank you very much.
This next one's very exciting. Mr. Fleckenstein, you are helping us recognize the Washington State Science and Engineering Fair Award winner.
Well, yes, and President Mitchell, Board of Directors, student representatives, and Dr. Saltzman, it's my pleasure this evening to recognize Daya Kumaraguru, a fourth grade student at Tambar Creek Elementary School, who participated in the 67th Annual Washington State Science and Engineering Fair this spring and earned a first place trophy in the biomedical and health sciences category, and was also recognized for 2 additional special awards at this competition. This is indeed, at such a young age, an impressive accomplishment that also merits our district's recognition. Here tonight is her teacher, Miss Rochelle Shively, who will share more with you about this amazing young scientist.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us here today. I had this speech all prepared, and then I thought, gosh, really, if I really thought about her in my classroom each and every day, this is a young lady who encompasses all of our Everett School District's core values. She brings a growth mindset with her into our classroom each and every day, and she tackles learning with all of her 21st century skills. She's inclusive, she's collaborative, she has all of the skills of a well-rounded student, and continues to amaze and surprise me each and every day with what she brings to me and what I also can learn from her as well. I have no doubt as she moves forward in her life and through her journey that she is going to continue to collaborate with her community and thrive in our global society. I'm just really so proud of her. I don't even know what else I can say. Good job, Thea.
We're going to take one with her and her teacher, and then her family's going to come up for another picture. Why don't you scoot right back across? There you go. Perfect. Okay, 1, 2, 3. That's great. Family, do you want to come up and join or take a picture? You can do both. You can go up and stand by your sister if you want. I can take it on your phone if you want me to.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, we'll get mom and dad in there too. Oh, there you go. Ready? Here we go. Very nice. Thank you.
Okay, and it just keeps getting better. Ms. Grant, you're going to help us with the recognition of the National PTA Jen Harp Demean Diversity and Inclusion Award recipient, and I probably butchered that name, so please forgive me.
We're together.
Okay.
Good evening, Director Mitchell, the Board of Directors, Dr. Salzman, student representatives. It is with great pleasure and pride that I stand before you tonight to recognize an extraordinary achievement by our very own Mill Creek Elementary PTA. I am thrilled to announce that the National PTA has honored Mill Creek Elementary PTA with the prestigious 2024 Jan Harp Demeen Diversity and Inclusion Award. This award celebrates PTAs that excel in ensuring that the perspectives and needs of all communities are heard and represented, and in striving to eliminate discriminatory practices. Mill Creek Elementary PTA in Washington State has shown remarkable dedication to fostering an inclusive school community. Amid the socioeconomic shifts and challenges posed during COVID-19 pandemic, they have prioritized accessibility by offering free events and programs and providing essential language support for our diverse students. Their unwavering support for LGBTQ families, increased social media presence, and multilingual volunteer efforts have significantly enhance the inclusivity of our school environment. As Yvonne Johnson, the president of the National PTA, in part stated, Mill Creek Elementary PTA has demonstrated a commitment to diversity and inclusion by engaging historically marginalized families, offering support to diverse groups, ensuring that all voices are heard and valued, and remaining steadfast in their efforts, unquote. This dedication not only sets a high standard, but also enriches the experiences of all students and families. The Jan Harp Demeen Diversity and Inclusion Award, named after the esteemed past National PTA president, who championed welcoming families of all backgrounds into PTA and school communities. It is a testament to the outstanding work of our PTA. The recipients of this award are chosen by the National PTA's Diversity, Inclusion, and Outreach Committee, which ensures diversity and inclusion within the PTA network. In recognition of their exemplary efforts, Mill Creek Elementary PTA, along with the Big Creek Elementary PTA and Hollandale PTSA, each will receive a plaque and a $1,000 award to further their important work. They will also be honored during National PTA's 2024 virtual convention from June 27th through the 29th. Please join me in applauding the Mill Creek Elementary PTA for their tireless efforts and remarkable achievement. They have set a shining example of how dedication, collaboration, and a focus on diversity and inclusivity can create a positive and enriching school community for all. Let's please welcome and applaud Mill Creek Elementary PTA. You want to say something?
Of course. Up here.
Oh, I will.
Yeah, right up there. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, 1, 2, 3. There you go, thank you. Is there? Oh, there is.
So all the families that joined us for the recognition, if you choose not to stay, you may leave and get on with your evening. We have no expectation for you to stay for the rest of the meeting. It's really sad when you do leave, but we understand you all have dinners and things to go to. So we'll move on now to section 7.0, the superintendent's report. Dr. Saltzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and to the public this evening. I'd like to start off my, you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to start off my report tonight with some behind the scenes of the workings of the district. So for many in the public, we have advisory councils. The district has several ways to engage the public in two-way conversations, and one is through the advisory council. These councils are a time for the district to provide information and background on a topic, and then receive feedback and recommendations from the community. We currently have 13 advisory councils. Many of y'all do not know that, but we have 13 advisory councils, and 4 were new this year. The process is this: every fall we revisit membership and open several groups for new or additional members. The agenda, presentations, and notes from the meetings are posted on the advisory council web pages. So I want you to know that that's how it starts and that's the workings of it. And I want to thank everyone that participates in our councils and provides us with invaluable feedback. We have many folks in our community that are part of these councils, and we couldn't do the work without them. So I want to share that with you this evening. I would like to talk to you about some accomplishments and celebrations as well. I was honored to be able to join our Everett Public Schools Foundation Prize Patrol for the Superintendent Scholarship Awards with some of our board members. We had many incredible students nominated, and it was a very tough choice and challenging time for the team to make those winners. Let me announce it this evening. Cascade High School, James Larson, who was honored by his teacher Blake Nelson. Everett High School, Lynn Mai, who was honored by her teacher Joshua Millum. Jackson High, Joey Kim, and her honored teacher Jason Gaddick. Sequoia High School, Alejandro Lopez, who was honored by her teacher April Simon. Congratulations to those students, and thank you to the foundation, to the board. Well, what a week last week. I was so impressed with our student athletes. First time in 21 years that all 3 softball teams went to the state tournament. That does not happen every day. Cascade, Everett, and Jackson High School softball teams went to the state and performed great. Jackson High School ended up walking away with the state title. They are the only 4A school in history to win the state title 4 times. I want to congratulate our entire community and student athletes. We had also many other students placing in state or coming home as state champions. I'm going to list a few here tonight because to be a state champion, you have to be the best of the best. To get to the state tournament, you've got to be the best of the best. Jackson High boys tennis are state champions with several individual team placements. Everett High had a state champion high jump, placed second in the triple and long jump. And Jackson High golf got second in the state. Chang Park is a state champion. What an exciting week for our entire student athletes and to our community. And on that note, I am pleased to announce a very special accomplishment tonight that does not happen all the time. Athletic and Activities Director, Ms. Danny Mundell, has been recognized as a certified athletic administrator. The prestigious recognition underscores Ms. Mundell's communication to excellence and leadership in interscholastic athletic administration. I think I saw Danny out there. Danny, congratulations to you and your family, okay? "64 Everett High students, Everett area students earned grants and college scholarships this year through the Everett Rotary program. This incredible generosity of the Everett Rotary donors and sponsors here, scholarships total was $320,000 plus. That is a lot of money for scholarships to our Everett Rotary. Thank you to Everett Rotary for your continued support, helping our students get a great start with a post-high school graduation. It was truly an honor to be there. Congratulations to the 5 Jackson High School students who were honored for STEM scholarships. They have been recognized as 2024 Washington Aerospace Scholars. And you know what's coming in just a few weeks, commencement. Graduation time is almost here. We're super proud of all our students from Cascade, Everett High, Jackson, Sequoia, Project Search, and our transition programs, and excited to honor them. But to the entire system, pre-K through 12, everybody's responsible for students walking across the stage. So I commend all our educators, the board, and the public for making this happen for our students. I want to wish everybody a wonderful evening and thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We'll now move on to board comments. Director Herman, would you like us to start us out?
Sure. Thanks as always, Dr. Salzman, for the update. It's never new information for us, but it's always fun to hear it all put together with pictures. So there's a lot to celebrate. Just two things I wanted to talk about tonight. Last Friday, we had the opportunity to bring Senator Robinson from Legislative District 38 and the chair of the Senate Ways and Means Committee over to Emerson to visit the Spanish two-way dual language program and get an overview of that program. So a big thank you to Principal Blythe Young and the team at Emerson for hosting the visit, and of course to Senator Robinson for coming out. The visit went really well. And of course, seeing the program in action in the classroom, seeing the students and the teachers at work, it really was a great experience. And then we also reserved some time just to talk with her, and a reminder that the multilingual program was one of our legislative priorities. So it was a great touch point with her and went really well. And I love this as one of our choice programs. We're in the third year, and not next year, but the following year is when we're hoping to expand that to Silver Lake Elementary. And then the other event was today, the Economic Alliance Snohomish County Update, along with Director Revlinsky, who was there. And once again, this, like some other events, a really great reminder of our role as K-12 education in workforce development. There were panelists from Amazon and Boeing, and they talked about the importance of the school system and being able to attract their own leadership because of a good school system, good community. But it really emphasized the importance of our partnership and collaboration with industry and connecting the dots in workforce needs. And I know our CTE department is doing a lot in that area. So it really brought some appreciation for that work. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have too much to report. I do want to report that last week I got the chance to attend Everett High's Multicultural Night, and it was just really exciting to get to see all the diverse backgrounds and cultures that our students hail from, and to see them sharing those cultures with the world and with the wider community. And also the food was really good. So, and that's all I have to report.
Director Mason.
I too don't really have anything to report. I was busy celebrating a graduation in our own home, which I guess is somewhat related to Everett Public Schools since we graduated him here and moved him on. So one more mark to add to those kids that go on to college and graduate.
Super, yeah. I really liked the Economic Alliance presentation or the panel with the county executive and Boeing and Amazon, and you know, it was thought-provoking. And I also talked to Mr. Anderson, and I heard a little bit about the accessibility of our CTE programs, because it's a big investment, it's a big deal, and it's accessible to everyone. It's not something that is limited, which is important to us, and I think even to big employers like that you know, we're helping to build the workforce of the future. The other thing, I guess the only other thing I would talk about is we did an audit exit meeting, and I was just blown away by the success, I think, of the district and everyone in the district that has a role to play in financial reporting, and that goes from time cards to tracking meals, all the way up to folks that are writing the financial statements. And really phenomenal results, I think. They found $500, okay. You know, I mean, really good stuff. And I think that speaks to our culture of excellence, and I would also like to recognize Dr. Salzman for that. I think that's great. Thank you.
That's all I got.
Alrighty. So we had our multicultural night at Everett High, and I heard lots of feedback from students that it was wonderful, and like Mr. Adkins said, a lot of great food. As well as I got to attend the WASA Awards, where I was presented with one, as well as I got to meet Betty Cobbs, and congratulations to her for getting her award. Also, I got to attend the Senior Award Night at Everett High, and congratulations to all those students who got awards and scholarships.
We're getting a new principal at Jackson next year, and we have lots of teachers and admin on the interview committee so they can pick their top 3 finalists to be selected as a principal. And I appreciate the thorough process of having new admin, although I wish in the future we could maybe have some student leaders from around the school involved and have some student input on who they think the principals should be, just so students can be involved more in that kind of bigger thing. So yeah.
An interesting request. So thank you. I have 3 things. First off, this was an event we went to last week that Alice just mentioned, the WASA Snow Aisle 109. So it really is this snow aisle area where all the districts were recognized. So Mimi Brown was given the WASA Regional Award for her student achievement, and which was really excellent. Alice was recognized, as well as Betty Cobb for her community leadership, as were many leaders in our district, Dr. Scott and Mr. Gunn and Catherine Matthews, and as well as some others for their years of service and pending retirement. So it was sort of a off-site celebration that we could all enjoy. I want to congratulate all the spring athletes. I've been following the news, even though I haven't been able to go to games or matches or meets, and just very, very exciting. The Superintendent Scholar Awards, that was really fun to do, and to see the kids. We actually woke up a kid from class. I won't say which one, but that was fun. But then lastly, my husband and I were at dinner this past weekend, and I'm still curious what's happening with the pandemic kids when they go off to college and when they get off to jobs. Like, I'm trying to just gather stories, and so we're talking to the young lady who is serving us, who's going to be a Jackson grad and going to a UC school in California. And I said, oh, that's great. And she's like, yeah, I'm just so glad that they didn't look at my 9th grade year, because learning algebra by Zoom was, worst grade ever. But they only looked at my 10th and 11th years, which I found very interesting. And she said, yeah, so I've got a 4.6 out of those 2 years. I'm like, okay, so she made up for it with all of her AP classes. But just really that I said that we had a student on the board that said the spirit is back after this pandemic. And she goes, oh my gosh, Jackson is so much fun right now. Everybody is so excited. So it was really exciting to speak to an upcoming graduate, but also to learn that they sort of looked at that virtual year and went, yeah, we're not going to look at that for your transcript. So that was just interesting, at least for one school or one school system in California, to just consider that. So thank you. With that, moving on to section 9.0, public comment. Dr. Saltzman, are there any requests for public comment tonight?
There are none at this time, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. Section 10.0, legislative updates. Director Herman.
Great, thank you. Just a few updates for tonight. I had mentioned in board comments about our visit with Senator Robinson, and again, that was in alignment with our own legislative priorities and the multilingual education programs and services. We did support that House bill last year, House Bill 1228, which passed in its 3rd substitute version, and provided establishing grant programs and additional supports through OSBI for dual language programs. So that was a nice tie-in, and the reminder that advocacy is a year-round cycle, even though we are in between sessions. Some WASDA updates. The LegRep meetings do continue monthly, and our last one in May was particularly interesting. We had Daniel Longhofer, the accounting analyst for WASDA, and Gavin Hopman from ESD 112 talk to us about MSOC and walk us through material supplies and operating costs, which we've talked about before. That meeting is recorded and available off of the WASDA website. So I just want to make sure the fellow board members were aware of that in case you wanted to go and watch that. And a reminder that while school districts did receive the increase in MSOC funding last legislative session of the $21 per student, that represents less than 20% of what was estimated to catch districts up on those expenses. So we are expecting MSOC to really come back as a legislative priority next year. So again, just it'll be interesting to see where that goes, but there does seem to see a lot of interest around districts calculating out what those funding gaps are and being ready with that data in the fall. Also, WASDA is in the process of creating and updating materials for ledge reps, and I was able to participate in a focus group last week with several other directors from around the state about the role of ledge reps on school boards and what information would be helpful. And so those documents should be rolling out in the next few months. And then on the federal level, the Federal Relations Network with WASDA is also meeting monthly. Next meeting is tomorrow, and the priorities for the National School Board Association for federal advocacy really do also align with WASDA and with our own district priorities. And those include prioritizing programs that ensure access to health care for economically disadvantaged students and their families, fully funding the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act in order to support service and resources for students with disabilities, advocating for continued title funds, and implementing and fully funding a universal school meals program. So again, there'll be more opportunities, I think, for us to get involved with some advocacy work there. That's all I have for tonight.
Okay, well, thank you. This moves us on to section 11.0, the consent agenda. Dr. Saltzman, have you received any questions about the consent agenda, a consent agenda item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the case of this consent agenda, the Superintendent's Office received and answered one question regarding the vouchers on the consent agenda. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. First, does any director wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it in new business on the agenda? Okay, thank you. Is there any objection to adopting the consent agenda by general consent? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved by general consent. Thank you. Section 12.0, strategic progress monitoring. There is none. Sure that I always do this right. Information discussion, Ms. Tress, you're going to bring forth our April 2024 financial report. If I finish my whole sentence there.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Saltzman, President Mitchell, and Board of Directors and student representatives. Tonight, I will be discussing the April 2024 financial report. Along with this presentation and tonight's consent agenda item, there's an accompanied financial report with additional detailed information for your reference. I will review the general fund, the district's main operating fund enrollment, revenues, expenditures, and fund balance, as well as the district's other 4 comprehensive funds, which include the district's capital projects fund, the debt service fund, the ASB fund, and the transportation vehicle fund. Looking at the district's overall enrollment, I'll speak to this, our annual average student FTE. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the difference between our annual average FTE versus headcount, because our annual average FTE is what we actually get our revenues, our primary revenues calculated on. It's an average of our monthly enrollment over the year, where headcount is typically the total numbers of students counted on that specific day overall. We are seeing an uptick or an increase in enrollment year over year overall, as well an increase in our overall budget, our overall enrollment from our budget. We also updated our enrollment projections related to special education services and transitional bilingual instructional program services in the January timeframe, as we were seeing higher enrollment overall. As that looks for our total overall revenue projections, we are anticipating an increase in revenue projections outside of our enrollment projections. We're seeing an increase in our revenue projections primarily due to an increase primarily in our miscellaneous revenues, due to some new accounting rules related to long-term IT subscriptions. So contracts that are over a year that typically could be our new student information system program, website hosting systems. This also could include actual online curriculum as well. The intent of this new accounting rule is to recognize the lifetime, the payments or the use of this asset over the lifetime of the contract, to recognize that asset and the liability that the district will owe over that contract. So for example, if we entered into an agreement that was 5 years and cost us $500,000 over the life of the contract, we now have to expense that $500,000 in year 1 of the contract and also count it as revenue. So it's an in and out in year 1. So it's kind of grossing up our revenues and expenditures. And so it's increasing our overall projected revenues this year. We have about $2.8 million in contracts that we've evaluated for this fiscal year with multiple different contracts. It has no impact to fund balance in that first year of adoption. We will then expense out the cash payments each year that they're paid under that contract as well. We're also seeing an increase in our state special purpose revenues related to an increase in our safety net claim. We initially provided a claim in the March-April timeframe, and we did see an increase this month as well, primarily due to our extended year students and services provided to them, who went from $5.8 million to $6.3 million in an anticipated claim, increasing our overall projected revenues. What I want to highlight about the safety net revenue claim is that we will know the final award in the June timeframe, and we typically don't receive all of the claim, and our projections reflect that we get a portion of that as well. Another highlight to look at our monthly revenue trends. In that April month timeframe, we are reflecting the actual increase we received for the MSOC additional funding, as well as the classified staffing allocations that were adopted in the legislative session this year. So that is reflected in our April actuals as well. Looking to our projected overall expenditures, we are currently projecting to be within board authorized appropriations. However, we are now going to monitor our expenditures overall because we're within about $1.2 million of those appropriations for a budget extension. Now, for those, for the public and those who are maybe new to the board and what a budget extension is, it is a process to actually increase our total approved appropriations overall. We have until August 31st to actually adopt any new approved appropriations, and so we'll be monitoring and monitoring as we go throughout the process and seeing what our actuals are to assess whether we do need to do a budget extension. We have had this process done before in 2022, and as in 2019, we did budget extensions for our capital projects fund as well. And this is really primarily due to the fact that we are anticipating an increase in expenditures related to this new accounting rules overall. It was larger than we originally anticipated at the beginning when we adopted the budget. Our expenditure projections are increasing about $2.3 million. And so the new accounting rules is about $2.8 million of that increase, and we're seeing an offset due to our decrease in our salary expenditure projections overall, based on the actuals we had throughout April. What I want to highlight on the monthly expenditure trends for the over 3 years is that you will see fluctuations month over month. And really, this is a timing and payments of how we process our material supplies and operating costs. So we process those payments on a weekly basis, and sometimes we have 5 weeks, sometimes we have 4 weeks, so it can fluctuate month over month depending on what that looks like. We are still anticipating our MSOCs to be higher than our projected amounts, and again, we are still anticipating our staffing costs to be higher than our budgeted amounts overall. Looking at fund balance, we do anticipate an increase in fund balance from our March projections, increasing from 9.2 to 9.4% of expenditures, really primarily driven by the state special, an increase in those revenues overall from our safety net projections. As you can see, a change in our assumptions can swing our fund balance overall. And then, as I mentioned before in the revenues, our April ending fund balance does include that increase in that additional funding the state legislature provided in this year's legislative session for the MSOC increases, as well as the classified staffing allocation increases. I also want to highlight one other thing is that fund balance is a one-time utilization over as well. And so as fund balance increases or decreases, it's one time only overall. And I think as we're seeing the change in our fund balance increase, we did a great job last year in making the reductions throughout the year to help support and manage as we go through that reduction process last year. Moving on to the district's other funds, we'll start with the Capital Projects Fund. The Capital Project Fund supports capital projects and technology. Where are my notes here? And technology supports may include replacements and modernizations of new schools, one-to-one life cycle management, new roofing projects, or new building upgrade projects. As you can see on this monthly trend for our capital projects funds, we are seeing an uptick in the fund balance overall in April, and that's really driven by the fact that we no longer have any bonds that we're issuing and that we are really utilizing our capital levy revenues. And so we see a bulk of that in the fall timeframe and in the springtime in that April as well. We will also see an uptick in our capital fund balance to help support some of those larger capital projects from the 2022 levy as well as we build up balance to help support those activities. Also included in here is a $4.5 million transfer from the capital projects funds to the general fund for items that are eligible under the capital projects fund but have to be paid through our general fund as well. The district's debt service fund supports the principal and interest of our outstanding bonds. We have approximately $71.4 million outstanding still. The balance will fluctuate based on the bond payment schedule. However, we'll start to see a slight decline in that fund balance overall as we don't have any new bonds anticipating to be issued. Our Associated Student Body Fund, or the ASB Fund, supports student activities. And as I've mentioned in the past, fall is generally that high point as a lot of the activity fundraising starts at the beginning of the year, and we'll start to see a decline in our fund balance based on our monthly trend. You can see that April fund balance has declined, and we'll see that decline throughout the rest of the year. Our Transportation Vehicle Fund supports the purchase of district-owned school buses, and we anticipate about $236,000 in state revenue this year. We are not planning to purchase any buses this year, but we will purchase buses at the beginning of next year based on the timing of when we could actually receive those buses in getting those buses here to the district. All of our other state transportation funding is through our general fund as we contract our busing services overall. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Andy. Is that $2.8 million gross up straight line, or is that all at inception?
It's actually discounted back using a present value cash flow model, and then you amortize straight line through that.
So everything came through in April?
No, we'll actually recognize everything at the end of August to make sure we identify all the other contracts if there's any that come through, but we monitor it quarterly to see if anything that we're not aware of comes through.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Mason.
Thank you. So I read in yesterday's Seattle Times an article, and the headline was, "Schools across Washington are struggling to balance their budgets." And I know we had some challenges last year, but I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you involved, because we are not. And as commented earlier, we are in not only good shape, but we also continue to have strong fiscal responsibility and long history of it. So I appreciate what everyone has done, very much so, that we're not in that state. And then my two questions, one was, why are tax revenues higher in April than October? Is it because some people pay their taxes for a whole year in April? It depends.
That's actually due to the calendar year of what you levy typically. So you levy calendar year, but we collect between 2 different years, and so typically your levy is higher year over year.
Okay,
Some
I
of
get
it
it.
could be collections too, but.
Yeah, little of both maybe.
Little both, but
Okay.
the primary is you're seeing your calendar year
Right.
levy is higher.
Right.
Yeah. so-
Okay. And then how do we project what our safety net might be? Because we don't get to collect it until it comes.
Correct. So
But-
we look at historically what we've claimed, and based on that claim, we look at what we were awarded, and that's about 93% of the award. So we're looking at about
Percentages
a
of
percentage
past
of
awards
past
and
awards
kind of
to say,
balance.
okay. Yes.
Yeah, that
And so
makes
it
sense.
may go up, it may go down, depending on what the award is, but we hope it goes up based on the new legislative outcomes. So one of the new legislative outcomes from this year was that punctuation, just minor errors in your
Yes.
safety net claims.
I
It
saw that.
shouldn't be discounted for you to not receive the claim. So we're optimistic that we will actually get more, but I'm not sure if it'll be reflected this year or next year overall.
Can't count on it till it's in our
Exactly.
bank account. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I just have one clarifying question, because I think that 9+% fund balance is one of the highest we've had in a very, very long time. But that's not like you said it's a point in time, but it's also pre-committed money. So it's not like we're flush. We've got a 5%, and then some of that is, I just don't want anybody to think that we're better off than we are. We're doing really good, but.
Yes, and so we do have committed amounts each at the end of the year that will be reflected when we do the financial statements, and that's, I don't know what the total typically is year over year, but it's in the millions range where it's either committed for next year or committed for specific restricted uses. Specific, like food and nutrition, we can only, if we carry over any of the fund balance for that, it can only be utilized in those programs. And then we do have that minimum 5% as well.
Okay, perfect. And then the recognition has been given, but I think I heard we're one of 2, if not one of 3 districts that are doing something, because I don't understand it all, against all the other districts. So just recognition that, out of the 279 or 97 districts in the state, we're one of 1 or 2?
So we prepare an annual comprehensive financial report, or ACFR, which is full GAAP or governmental accounting standard rules overall, which it's not required, but we do, and there's some benefits to that. One, it does provide increased transparency, as well as provide additional. It helps our bond rating as well, because we're providing that additional information for those outside investors to look at the bigger dollar amounts that are impacted overall.
Yeah, but just that the state auditors recognized us for being a rarity.
Yes.
So thank you for your strong work and your team. And you mentioned a team effort. Director Rovolinski.
Thank you for bringing that up. After the audit conference, or audit exit conference, I went and looked at our credit rating. And do you, or will you, have an opportunity to raise it? Because we were downgraded by Moody's in August.
So we could advocate for that. I would be a little hesitant, because some of the reasons we were downgraded was for compression in our fund
Right.
balance overall, not for the additional reporting. And
Yeah.
we were upgraded probably 3 years prior to that. And so depending on, we could go through that process to try to, I just don't know if it would actually equate to an upgrade at this point in time.
Right, and if we don't have to issue a bond, then whatever.
Yeah, and ultimately, it's not going to impact our current taxpayers in any way
Right.
at this point, because we've already issued the bonds in that regard.
It did go down slightly last year because of what the state auditor, the clawbacks. So that did hurt us.
It was
last year?
primarily really about fund balance
Fund balance,
compression.
yeah, it was
They
all
gave
over
us a
stuff.
great rating in regards to governance and other pieces as
Yeah,
well.
and a lot of
Other-
districts were impacted.
Yeah, and the reserves have really been built back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, great, thank you. So now we'll move on to section 15.0, new business. 14.0, unfinished business. There is none for this meeting. Now 15.0, new business. Approval of the student representative to the school board, Ms. Mundell.
Good evening, everybody. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Sequoia High School sophomore student Vanessa Covarrubias for your consideration as a student representative to the school board beginning September 10th, 2024. Her term will end in June of 2026. Family and consumer sciences teacher Melissa Fernandez said that Vanessa's impact on Sequoia is felt both inside and outside of the classroom as she leads by example, showing maturity, integrity, and a true love for learning. She truly gives her all in everything she does. English teacher Joanne Budewig said Vanessa is just launching on her journey as a seeker. She welcomes others' viewpoints, and as a student rep from Sequoia will bring empathy for students across schools, ability levels, and cultures. Teacher and administrator Jack Roy said that Vanessa has proven herself to be a diligent student, but what stands out the most about her is her desire to make the school environment better for those around her. She is a natural to help others anytime they are in need. Vanessa will be a strong contributor to the board and represent the students of Everett Public Schools extremely well. At this time, I ask that the board approve the Student Board Representative Selection Committee's recommendation of Vanessa Covarrubias as its new representative. I have Vanessa here to also introduce who she brought with her.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Vanessa. I brought my mom and my little sister Jessie, and I am really excited to be here and to become the next student representative. And I also want to thank Danny for being so helpful and kind, and I can't wait to see you and work with all of you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So I'm going to just presume that we can approve Vanessa by general consent. And everybody's in agreement? Thank you and welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you, and thank you for your time.
All right, now we'll move on to section 15.02. We have two policies, so Mr. Fleckenstein, I'll let you introduce each of them.
Well, thank you and good evening. First up tonight, we have proposed revisions to policy 2124, digital citizenship and media literacy, which are provided from WASDA in consultation with the Artificial Intelligence Advisory Group and the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. With the widespread use of AI, these revisions are the first of what may be several changes over time to address the rapidly changing classroom experience for students and teachers across Washington State as AI tools become a part of everyday learning experiences. Our educators are positioned at the forefront of this technological revolution, and the guidance and resources released by OSPI embedded in these policy revisions are designed to support the responsible and ethical use of AI in classrooms. These revisions have been reviewed by the Policy Review Council, Legal Counsel, and Superintendent's Cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Are there any questions? Yes.
Is AI still blocked on our district website for students?
That's a great question. I haven't tried to use it myself. Mr. Beckley?
Yes, the chat GPT is still blocked for students, but not staff. So it is something we're continue to work towards as we educate our students on the digital citizenship and the ethical use of it, is unblocking it for their access.
Any other questions? I just have a question. I guess it's for this one and the next one because they both include artificial intelligence, but these are just the protocols that just sort of state, are adding the words, but the procedures, the guidelines, all of that will be in other documents that provides more clarity, more information.
Absolutely. So these policy statements, the implementation of them by staff and directed for staff to follow is in the procedures.
Perfect, thank you.
And next up, we have revisions presented this evening to 3245 are from WASDA in consultation with the AI Advisory Group and OSPI. We have chosen to incorporate a singular WASDA model policy on AI into our existing policies for greater coherence now and in the future as AI policy changes are made. While AI as a singular learning tool is a hot topic right now, eventually, like the internet once was and one-to-one devices, will eventually become a technology tool that is synonymous with classroom learning in the future. The proposed revisions to Policy 3245 Technology have been previously reviewed by the Policy Review Council, Legal Counsel, and the Superintendent's Cabinet.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Fleckenstein. Just for the landscape of AI, the Advisory Council is through OSBI that they are starting, I think, fairly recently, correct?
Yes, and encapsulating that council with WASDA's partnership developed some model language. And as I shared, we have two existing policies. You remember as we were entering the one-to-one, well, to start with, digital literacy was preceded one-to-one initiatives in Everett Public Schools. That was also championed by OSPI. Our technology policy is our actual student policy about use of technology. So instead of just keeping it as a standalone, which we wouldn't normally do for a tool, we've incorporated it where people are most likely to go to now and in the future for guidance around the use of AI ethically.
It's actually, there's going to be more, obviously, coming out. It's kind of fascinating. And this touches two, and correct me if I'm wrong, two of our advisory councils. We've got technology and we've got our policy review.
Yes.
So we've got different eyes on this. I did have a question from a community member recently on a concern on plagiarism and how there are different tools that teachers can use. Has that come up in discussions?
I think that is a primary concern of classroom teachers about student work being their own original thoughts. Well before the use of AI, we've always taught our students from early ages about the ability to resource credible sources, how to cite those sources appropriately, and then to paraphrase that information if you're not going to cite it, to create original thought, drawing on resources as your own. Those critical writing skills have not changed in Everett Public Schools. The ability to circumvent those skills with AI is new. But as referenced earlier, our procedure really outlines how the use of AI exists in the classroom, and that rests currently in a procedural language with the teacher, creating that those guide rails, if you will, and direction prior to the giving of an assignment.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Or students, sorry, because AI is definitely impacting you both.
Does the district or do you guys have like a direct plan for how you're going to implement it into classrooms, or do you see yourself in the near future like having teachers support and engage the use of AI?
Yeah, great question, Will. Teachers right now in the procedure have the ability to define whether or not AI can be used for a particular assignment. And although we're here looking at the policy language at the board level, procedures are how staff implement policy. So right now, as we move forward and once this is adopted by the board, teachers will be able to determine yes or no, can AI be used for an assignment? And that's kind of step one. The actual use of AI by students, if it is approved for a particular assignment, is going to be a learning experience not only for teachers as they work through assignments, but also for students. And again, I would say as an educator myself, AI is a tool, just like a keyboard and a mouse is a tool. New tools spark creativity, but I think those essential skills of original thought and the ability to reason will still exist no matter whether you use AI or not, because at the end of the day, humans have to think for themselves eventually, right? I'm assuming we don't want robots to think for us.
So I just, a clarifying question. You said teachers will have the ability to, allow students to use it or not after these policies are approved, but students don't have access to it. So how does that work?
Yeah. So first step is to set a policy language and its procedures. As I stated in this presentation, this is the first of what I foresee to be many revisions around AI and policy. And it's the best guidance we have at the current moment. But yes, with the Advisory Council, Technology Advisory Council, and through policy revision here at the board level, we're going to navigate this together on the best thinking that's available in our state. So although this is our first beginnings in this for the district, I anticipate that we'll continue to work together to make it work well.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. King. And I appreciate Dr. Saltzman reminding to ask you because it was a really great question. So we'll move both of these to second reading by general consent. And thank you so much. And we are just speeding right along. Section 16.0 is upcoming agenda items. Dr. Saltzman, what is planned for upcoming agenda items and meetings?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board Directors. Just a point of privilege. AI is not going anywhere, and one thing that we have is committees of principals, teachers, and I know I spoke to Will and Alice at our one-on-ones about artificial intelligence. So we got to keep this going and this conversation because it's not stopping, changes every day. So I just want a point of privilege to share that with the public too. The June 4th special meeting, the Board of Directors will attend the Everett Public Schools Retiree Recognition Event. At the June 11th, 2024, the board agenda will contain the following: the recognition of the core value champions collaboration, recognition, graduation student representative, affirmative action plan, annual comprehensive financial report, state auditor's report, construction change order authorization, and school district authorized agent that time. Madam Chair, Board of Directors, that would be that report for that June timeframe.
Thank you. This moves us on to section 17.0, executive or closed session, and I don't believe there is one for this evening. And that moves us, I wish it was a sunny evening, to section 18.0, which is adjournment. This concludes the March 26, 2024 regular meeting of the Everett Public Schools Board of Directors. This meeting is now adjourned.